When I first saw the letter wedged into my mailbox, I thought it was just another welcome note. The kind you get from a friendly neighbor or the homeowners association congratulating you for joining their community. I had only been in the house for 5 days, and everything still smelled like new paint and sawdust. My moving boxes were piled in corners, my furniture half unwrapped. I hadn't even met anyone yet, but that morning the letter changed everything. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with embossed lettering that screamed of self-importance, the Seabridge Shores Homeowners Association. Below it, in cursive, a waterfront community of distinction. The phrase already annoyed me. I slid it open with a butter knife while sipping my coffee and unfolded the letter. It was short, sharp, and perfectly condescending. Dear homeowner, it has come to our attention that the pier extending from your property does not comply with the aesthetic and safety standards of the Seabridge Shores community. Please remove or reconstruct it to whole. Approve specifications within 30 days to avoid penalties. Sincerely, Jonathan E. Marin, President, Seabridge Shores HOA. I stared at the page for a long moment. Then I laughed. One of those dry, incredulous laughs that taste bitter halfway through. The pier they were talking about wasn't even technically mine the way they assumed. The wooden structure at the back of the property extended into the marina, my marina. 3 weeks before moving in, I had closed on 2 properties, the 3-story house overlooking the inlet and the entire Seabridge marina that bordered it. The marina had been struggling financially for years, but I saw potential. I'd made my fortune in coastal development and waterfront engineering. Docks, boat lifts, custom piers, you name it. Buying a marina was less of a whim and more of a statement, but apparently my new neighbors didn't get the memo. I reread the letter and noticed something else that made me chuckle: aesthetic and safety standards. The pier they wanted me to remove was professionally designed, by my own company in fact. It had a modern steel-framed structure, composite decking, solar lighting, and reinforced pilings. It was worth more than the HOA president's entire house. Still, I knew how these things worked. Neighborhood politics. People who needed control over others to make their lives feel orderly. I wasn't new to power games. I just didn't expect to encounter one before I'd even unpacked my dishes. Later that day, I decided to attend the HOA meeting. Not because I needed permission, but because I was curious. The association held their gatherings every Thursday evening at the Seabridge Clubhouse, a white stucco building by the community pool. When I walked in, heads turned. Most of the attendees were retirees in golf shirts and sun hats, sipping wine from plastic cups. Conversations dimmed when they saw me. The new guy, the outsider. At the front of the room, a balding man in a blue blazer tapped a clipboard against the table. "We'll call this meeting to order," he said. "First on the agenda, property compliance issues, specifically the pier at Lot 17. All eyes shifted toward me. "That's mine," I said, smiling politely. "Well, my property, I mean." The man, Jonathan Marin, the HOA president, peered over his glasses. "Ah, Mr. Rowe, correct? Welcome to Seabridge Shores. I hope you're settling in." "I am," I said, "though I admit I'm a bit surprised to get a violation notice so soon." Jonathan smiled in that way that wasn't friendly at all. "We try to maintain standards here. Your pier, while impressive, doesn't conform to our community's coastal design guidelines. We prefer natural wood, not synthetic materials or industrial finishes, because the pier conforms perfectly to the state's environmental standards for marine construction. In fact, it's safer and longer lasting than treated pine your guidelines recommend." A few members murmured among themselves. Jonathan cleared his throat. "Be that as it may, the HOA's aesthetic policies are binding. All homeowners must adhere." I leaned back, letting him finish his little performance. "Jonathan, was it? I think there's been a misunderstanding." He frowned. "How so?" "The pier isn't technically part of the HOA's jurisdiction." He stiffened. "It's attached to your property, is it not?" "It's attached," I said, "to my property line. But once it extends beyond that, it's over marina waters, which are privately owned." "And who owns the marina?" he asked, irritation creeping into his voice. I smiled. "Ido." A wave of silence rippled through the room. One of the board members blinked slowly, as if processing a foreign language. Jonathan's face flushed pink. "You own the marina?" "That's right." As of last month,
Sì, Marina, Leci.
the whole operation, slips, docks, maintenance rights, everything extending past the bulkhead. The silence deepened. A woman in a floral blouse leaned forward. So technically, you're saying the HOA can't regulate your pier? Not unless you'd like to regulate someone else's property entirely, I said, which to be clear would be overreach. Jonathan looked like he wanted to argue, but the words got stuck. His composure cracked just enough for me to see the resentment underneath. People like him didn't like losing control, especially not in public. After a moment, he said stiffly, "We'll have our legal committee review this." "By all means," I said. "But if you're planning to contest property rights, you'll need to take it up with my company's counsel. They're very thorough." The meeting moved on, but I'd made my point. When I walked out into the night, the marina lights shimmered across the water like a quiet declaration of ownership. I stood on the pier, my pier, and listened to the sound of the waves slapping against the pilings. The ocean didn't care about homeowner associations or bylaws. It belonged to whoever had the vision and the will to harness it. As the wind swept through the ropes and masts of docked boats, I thought about how small that room had felt, how contained, how suffocatingly polite. I built empires from nothing, carved opportunity out of raw coastline, and here I was being told what color my dock should be. They wanted power over a man they didn't understand. But that night, I decided something. I wouldn't just defend what was mine. I'd change Seabridge shores forever. The morning after that HOA meeting, the neighborhood was buzzing. I noticed people slowing their golf carts when they passed my driveway, pretending to check their phones while sneaking glances at me. A few waved stiffly. Most didn't. That was fine. I'd never been one for small talk, especially not with people who measured status by lawn symmetry and mailbox shine. By noon, I'd received an email from the HOA's compliance committee. It was polite, clipped, and entirely predictable. They intended to review the ownership boundaries pertaining to the marina and clarify the HOA's jurisdictional rights. In other words, they were scrambling. I didn't bother replying. Instead, I drove to the marina office, a low-slung building with salt streak windows and a hand-painted sign that still read Seabridge Marina, EST 1986. The manager, Carl, met me at the door, clutching a clipboard and a coffee mug the size of a small bucket. "You heard about the HOA, right?" he asked. "Of course," I said. "They want my pier." Carl chuckled. "They wanted control over this marina for years. The last owner fought them off twice, but he didn't have the resources to keep up. They'll try the same with you." "I'm counting on it," I said. "Let's start cleaning this place up. New signage, repaint the docks, and install security gates. If they want to play power games, we'll make sure they understand where the real boundaries are." Over the next few weeks, the transformation began. Crews worked dawn to dusk, stripping old decking, upgrading lighting, and restoring the marina's facilities. The new signs gleamed silver and navy, bearing my company's logo, Row Marine Development. From my back deck, I could see the change unfold. My pier now connecting seamlessly to the marina's newly paved walkway. It looked sharp, modern, efficient, everything the HOA hated. Predictably, the backlash came quickly. A letter appeared taped to my front door one morning, printed in bold, underlined type, "You are in violation of community harmony standards. Unauthorized commercial signage and construction activities are prohibited. Cease operations immediately or face legal action." I couldn't help but grin. They still didn't get it. The HOA's reach ended at the bulkhead. Everything beyond was mine. They could waive their bylaws all they wanted. It wouldn't change the fact that the marina was private, independent, and legally insulated from their control. That evening, I decided to attend another meeting, not because I had to, but because I wanted to see how far they'd push it. The clubhouse was full again, and the moment I entered, the chatter died down. Jonathan was already at the podium, a stack of papers before him. "Mr. Rowe," he said, voice taut with restrained irritation, "we've reviewed your case. While it appears you have ownership of the marina, your recent renovations and signage create a visual and commercial disturbance that negatively impacts property values." "Property values?" I repeated. "Jonathan, I just increased the value of the marina by $500,000. If anything, your homes now border a luxury waterfront facility instead of a rotting dockyard." That may be, he said through clenched teeth, but this is a residential community, not a business district. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the back of a chair. And yet, every homeowner here pays monthly fees for boat slip access, don't they? Whose property do you think those slips sit on? He blinked. The realization began to dawn on a few of the members. I'll save you the trouble, I continued. As the marina's owner, I have full discretion to lease or revoke dock access. Meaning, technically, every homeowner's boat parked there does so at my permission. So if we're discussing who's disrupting the community, perhaps we should talk about unauthorized docking. A murmur of panic swept through the room. Jonathan's face darkened. You wouldn't dare, he said quietly. Try me, I replied. I don't like threats and I don't like arrogance. You came after me without even bothering to introduce yourself. You demanded I remove my peer before learning who you were talking to. That was your first mistake. Your second is thinking I play by your rules. A woman near the back raised her hand nervously. Are you saying you could kick us off the marina? I turned to her, my tone softening slightly. No, ma'am. I'm saying I won't, as long as we can start treating each other like neighbors instead of opponents. I don't want conflict. I want respect. You respect my rights, and I'll respect yours. There was a long pause. For the first time, Jonathan seemed so sure of himself. The power in the room had shifted, and everyone could feel it. I propose, I said, a new agreement between the HOA and the marina, one that defines boundaries clearly. You handle the lawns and mailboxes, I handle the docks and water access. You stay off my property, and I'll keep your boaters happy. Jonathan hesitated, then nodded stiffly. We'll review your proposal. Do that, I said. But take your time. I'll be updating the marina's lease agreements next week. It'd be a shame if there were misunderstandings. I left before he could respond. The night air outside was thick with salt and tension. Across the water, the marina lights shimmered like quiet victory. A week later, the HOA caved. They sent me a revised agreement acknowledging that the marina and all connected docks extending into the inlet were exempt from HOA jurisdiction. I signed it, sent back a copy, and added a personal note. Thank you for your cooperation. Here's to calmer waters ahead. But I wasn't done. I hired local contractors to build a small waterfront cafe at the marina's edge, open to the public, serving coffee and fresh seafood. Within a month, it became the neighborhood's new social hub. The same residents who once whispered about me were now waving as they lined up for cappuccinos and clam chowder. Even Jonathan started showing up, though he pretended not to notice me when I passed. The HOA had lost their grip, and the community was thriving because of it. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. One evening, as I stood on my pier watching the sun dip below the horizon, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Jonathan. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Mr. Rowe. Jonathan, I said without turning. Come to issue another citation? He sighed. No. I came to say I may have misjudged you. I looked over at him. His blazer was gone. He wore a simple polo and jeans. That's one way to put it, I said. You've done good things for the marina, he admitted. Property values have gone up. People are happy. I suppose we were too rigid, too protective. Control can be addictive, I said quietly. It feels like safety until someone challenges it. He nodded, eyes on the water. So you really own all of this? Every piling, every slip, every light bulb, I said. But ownership isn't about domination, Jonathan. It's about stewardship. The ocean doesn't belong to anyone. We just manage our piece of it for a while. He smiled faintly. Maybe you should run for HOA president. Not my style, I said. But I appreciate the thought. He chuckled and walked back up the path, leaving me alone with the sound of the waves. As the tide rolled in, I thought about how fragile power was, how easily it shifted when truth surfaced. The HOA had come at me with arrogance, assuming I was just another homeowner to bully. They never imagined the pier they wanted to tear down was the very symbol of the authority they couldn't touch. And that, I realized, was the best part. Not revenge, not victory, just balance restored. The water shimmered beneath me, reflecting the golden twilight. My pier stretched into the calm inlet, solid and silent, a bridge not just to the marina, to a new kind of peace.
For the first time since moving in, I felt truly at home.